A night nurse changed my hospital wristband to the name of a woman who had died in that room prior and told me not to take it off until morning. This is Scared with Jess, and today's story is about what came into my room looking for her. I woke up sometime after 2 in the morning to a nurse cutting the wristband off my arm. I had been admitted after a minor surgery and was supposed to stay for 2 nights. I was tired and still on pain medication, so at first I didn't think anything of it. The nurse was standing beside my bed in dark blue scrubs. She looked older than the nurses who had been checking on me earlier, maybe in her 60s, and she didn't have a badge on. I asked what she was doing, and she said that there was a problem with my wristband and she needed to replace it. She put a new one around my wrist and pressed the ends together, and then she pulled my blanket back over my arm. I looked down at the band, and the name printed on it wasn't mine. It said Margaret Vale. I told her she had given me the wrong one, and the nurse looked towards the door before answering. And then she said quietly, "Keep it on until morning." I thought I had misunderstood her. I held my wrist up and told her again that it had someone else's name on it. She leaned closer and said, "If anyone comes in this room tonight, don't tell her your real name." I remember feeling completely awake after that. I asked who she was talking about, and the nurse looked at my wristband, and then she said, "She only looks at the name." I reached for the call button, but she put her hand over it. She wasn't rough, she just held it down and looked straight at me. "Please," she said, "leave it on." And then she walked out. The door closed behind her, and I sat there staring at it for a while. Part of me thought I had dreamed the whole thing, but the wristband was still there. Margaret Vale. The date of birth printed beneath the name would have made her more than 80 years old. I pressed the call button, and a different nurse came in a few minutes later. She was one of the nurses who had been working when I arrived, and she had her badge clipped to her shirt. I told her another nurse had changed my wristband. She looked at it and immediately asked where I had gotten it. I said an older woman in dark blue scrubs had put it on me. And she checked my chart and said nobody was supposed to change my band. And then she asked me to describe the woman. When I mentioned she didn't have a badge, the nurse's expression changed slightly. She tried to hide it, but I noticed. She cut the band off and dropped it into the trash, and then she printed a new one with my actual name. I asked who Margaret Vale was, and she said she didn't know. I asked if there was an older nurse working on the floor, and she told me there were several nurses in the hospital, but nobody should be entering patients' rooms without identification. And then she said the medication might have made me confused. She checked my blood pressure and told me everything looked fine and left. I didn't go back to sleep. I kept the television on low and watched the door. Around 3, the hallway lights dimmed. Not completely, just enough that the light beneath my door